11, we are starting up with a new chapter in economics, that is money and banking. Now, in this video, I will be describing the concept of money, the evolution of money. Now, you all know that when we go for buying anything, any commodity or any services, suppose if we hire the taxi service, or if you are taking the education service from school, then buying any kind of clothes, books, anything and everything requires the use of money. So, on one hand, we buy the product, and on the other hand, we give the value of the product to the person selling the commodity. So, money is basically used as a medium of exchange. So, for conducting any kind of transaction, we require the use of money, because until and unless we are able to pay the money, we cannot get the good according to our need. But before the evolution of money, there was barter system. Now, what is barter system? Just to simplify the thing, just to understand the concept of money or to understand the function of money, we need to focus on the barter system that prevailed before the evolution or advent or discovery of money. Now, earlier, suppose if I take two individuals X and Y. Suppose X needs to buy rice and Y needs to buy wheat. So, suppose X, what is the want of X? X wants to buy rice. And what is the want of this person Y? He wants to buy wheat. So what will happen? The person X will try to buy the commodity rice from the individual Y. On the other hand, Y individual will try to buy wheat from X. So on one hand, X is giving wheat, on the other hand, he is taking rice. So what is happening over here? These two individuals, X have got wheat, Y has got rice. But X wants rice from Y. In return, he is ready to give whatever wheat he has got. Similarly, Y is willing to take the wheat and sell the rice. So can you see there is a double coincidence of want? What do you mean by double coincidence of want? So X is wanting rice which is present with Y. So when X is in need of rice, he can only give wheat because there is no system of money, no system of payment in terms of money. So X can pay in terms of another commodity which is with him. So X can only pay wheat in return of rice. On the other hand, Y is willing to take that wheat and exchange his rice. So there is a double willingness that is existing between X and Y. Whatever X is demanding is present with Y. So he can satisfy his want from taking the rice from Y. Similarly, Y demands wheat and he can take that from X. And so the exchange is very smooth and the exchange is possible because both are willing to give their good which the other wants. And that is why we say there is a double coincidence of want. But if it does not happen, then it creates a problem. Suppose X, who is having wheat, he wants to buy rice. Y has got rice. So X wants to buy rice from Y. But Y is not willing to take his wheat and exchange his rice for wheat. So what is happening? So X wants to take rice. Rice is present with Y, and he can only pay in terms of wheat to Y because he only has got wheat, but Y is not ready to accept the wheat. So there is no double coincidence of want, and Y is ready to exchange rice for some other product, for example say pulses, which is with Z. So what is happening over here? It is creating a confusion, I know, but definitely X wants rice from Y. Y can give the rice if X gave him pulses, because Y now demands pulses. Then the exchange would have been smooth. Here we have seen whatever X is demanding getting, and whatever Y is demanding getting from X. So there is a double. Double means both the people. There is a coincidence of want. That is, they are willing to take what the other is giving in exchange. But here from Y, X demands rice. But X can only pay in terms of another good, that is wheat. But Y is not willing to take wheat because he is not wanting the product. He wants to take pulses. So Y will be ready to take pulses from Z and pay in terms of rice. But suppose Z is not willing to give his pulses in exchange of rice because he wants some other products, say vegetables. So in case of barter system where goods were exchanged for goods, it created a problem because smooth transaction was not possible, because double coincidence of want was not possible every time. Whatever you are giving, other person is willing to take, and whatever you are demanding, whatever he is demanding is present with you. So this coincidence of want was rarely possible, which created a problem. So people couldn't want the product and couldn't fulfill themselves with all those products because there was some kind of exchange restriction due to absence of this double coincidence of want. But in order to get over this barter system problem or this double coincidence problem, money evolution was very much necessary. Now, when you have money, do you think all these is a problem? If X wants rice, he can pay the money and purchase from shop. Y wants pulses, he can pay the money and get it from shop. So there is no need of double coincidence of want, no need of exchanging goods. If you have money, you can acquire whatever you want for. So money is function of money. The first important function is it serves as a medium of exchange and makes possible all kinds of exchange. And this money is legally recognized. What do you mean by legal recognition? That is, if anybody is purchasing goods from you and he is paying in terms of money, you are bound to accept money as a medium of exchange. You cannot say that no, I will not accept payments in money, I will accept payments in gold, in clothes, in if you give me three watches expensive, then only I can sell you the commodity. So all these things are not happening over here because money is legally acceptable. The government has actually approved the concept of buying and selling with the help of money. So if you are buying anything from a shop and if you are paying them in terms of money, they cannot refuse you. But when you make payments like in check or in cards, they might refuse you because that is not legally accepted payment. If they are willing, they can accept at their own risk, but government have not said that it is a legally accepted form of exchange. So many shops, when you go, you will see there is card acceptable, and many shops cards are not acceptable. In many shops you can pay a huge amount through check. In many shops they want cash. But Cash or money in liquid form is the general acceptability. It is the medium of exchange, and the government has said that nobody can refuse payment in terms of money. But in any other sort of payment, the seller can refuse. Suppose if I am buying and I am just giving an expensive gold ring, it is more expensive, so they might not accept that as a form of payment, because we are basically going into a barter economy then, and that is not legally acceptable. But if I pay the value of goods in terms of money, that is highly acceptable. They have to accept, they cannot reject it, because it is a legal method of exchange. Number 2, money acts as a unit of account. Now suppose if I write 1 kg oil, 2 books, 3 chairs. Now these are all different items, and if I say what is the value of all the 3 items together, now what you do, generally what you do, you convert the price. Suppose price of 1 chair is 200, then price of 3 chairs will be 3 into 200, 600 rupees. Price of 1 kg oil, suppose it is 120 rupees. And price of 1 book, suppose it is 100. So 2 books will be 200 rupees. So what you do, according to their quantity, you just take out their value, and when you add up the value, then you get the collective valuation of all the products together. So basically, we cannot understand the value of 3 chairs or oil or book until and unless it is expressed in terms of a common denominator, that is common unit of measurement. Here it is rupees. So when we convert them into their money equivalent or into common denominator, we are expressing all in terms of money, we can get the collective valuation of the product, which helps us to understand how much valued the items are. So for that reason, we call that money is a unit of account. It helps us to, it gives us a common unit which helps us to evaluate the valuation of all the products and keep an account or record of the same. Number 3, standard of deferred payment. Now what do you mean by deferred payment? Deferred payment means which you are not paying now but you will be paying later. For example, when I am borrowing means I don't have the money now but I will be paying them later. Suppose I am borrowing from banks or from friend, but I said that I will pay later. Suppose when you take a house for rent, what you do, after getting 1 month of the service from staying inside the house, you pay the rent. So you make the payment later. Now before money, what happened? People only exchanged in terms of good. For example, I have taken a house and at the end of the month, I have to pay him for giving the service, for fulfilling my need of housing service. So when I am making payment in terms of good, suppose I have 2 kg potatoes I am giving. Suppose sometimes I am having 1 chair, I am giving that. Suppose sometimes I am giving any other commodities. So what I am doing, every time I am giving different objects, and do you think each object's value is same? Suppose 2 kg potatoes, their price is less when evaluated in terms of money than compared to a chair. That also means that at the end of 1 month I am paying less, and at the end of 1 month I am paying more. So basically, I am getting a service, 1 month service, same service every month, but my payment is not accordingly done because sometimes I'm paying less, sometimes I'm paying more. So this problem arises only in barter system when I have to exchange goods, but when a direct fixed amount of money we get. Suppose after the advent of money, if we come to know that for this housing service, after each and every month, I have to pay 2000, then by hook or crook, every month I need to pay 2000. So the household who is staying, they are paying every month an equal amount, and the person who have rented, they are also getting worth the service. They are also getting back 2000 rupees every month. So they have to form an idea. They know that at the end of the month their income will be 2000 rupees. But before money evolution, they don't know in terms of good what kind of good and what value of good they will get in return for giving the service. So this problem is solved when money came and it is used as a standard of deferred payment. Number 4, it has a store value. Now storing money is very easy. You know that the money takes very less space and the money is not perishable. It is not that if you keep the money at home, it will die down and it will be in a position that it cannot be used further. But earlier, when exchange was in terms of good, for example, in exchange I got potatoes. But potatoes, what I will do, I will save it so that I can use potato for exchanging with any other commodity which I need. Suppose now I have got, I wanted to sell the rice in order to get potatoes. So I sold the rice and got potatoes. And I ate some and I can see that I have made a saving of potatoes. So I don't need them. So what I will do, I will use it for exchanging with some other good. But this exchange has to be done immediately because you cannot save potatoes for a long time because it is a perishable item. It cannot stay for a long time. It is not durable. It will it will be in such a condition that you cannot use for exchange. But when money came, then what happened? Suppose you have sold something and got money in return. You can store it, keep it with yourself until and unless your next need arises, your next transaction that you want to do in future arises, you can store the money. So money is durable, it can stay intact in the same condition for a long time. And second, it is not perishable. So storage wise also money is better, and that's why money is used as a exchange. So these 4 are the simple yet most important functions of money. So it is used as a medium of exchange and it is legally acceptable. Number 2, unit of account. It helps us to make valuation of all the different products in a common unit or common term. Number 3, standard of deferred payment. That means all those payment which we have to make, bound to make after a certain period of time. If we pay in terms of good, it might not be every time possible to make equal payment because things differ in their value. So if there is proper money and we know that how much amount we have to pay, we are also confirmed that we have to pay this. Those who have to get, they are also confirmed about their future income from us. And 4, they have a store value. So when X gave rice and Y gave wheat to X, X can use the wheat and store for a certain time. If he is saving some amount of wheat to go for further exchange purpose, suppose he is saving the wheat in order to buy pulses from Z. So he will buy pulses and pay him in terms of wheat, but he also knows that wheat also cannot be stored for a long time. So he has to make the exchange deliberately, immediate, as soon as it is necessary. But suppose X sells rice and get money, then he can store the money without any problem for a long time, and there is no hurry to use up the money because it does not perish, and whenever the need arises in future he can use it for exchange purpose.